We've got breaking news we're going to get to here. The president just speaking a short time ago on these documents, the new round of illegal top secret documents taken from the White House showing up. And, there's a bunch of conspiracy theories floating around outside from people I trust saying, wait a second, I'm just going to throw this out there. You guys tell me in the chat if you think that this is maybe the case, the conspiracy theory. But conspiracy theories, it's a 6-month spoiler alert. So I'm saying, was he set up? Some people I trust, some really interesting people I trust saying, was he set up? Were documents placed? Are they trying to get rid of him?
Of Biden?
Are Democrats trying to get rid of him in order to move him out of the way? They do not want this guy running in 2024.
If that's the case, though, the mainstream media did not get the memo because they are all in on this is not the
a big
same.
deal.
This is not what Trump did. We're going to show you a little bit about that later.
They're all like, oh, Trump took this many, but Biden only took this many. And Trump, this was top secret, but these are only top secret.
These are medium top secret. These are medium rare. It's hilarious.
Just excusing it away, everything they can say that just it minimizes his and maximizes Trump's.
Yeah.
Okay, but can we just play that out a little? David, stay with us. No, give me David back. Yeah, thank you.
Don't take him away.
Yeah. Give him back.
I do what I want.
Okay. Sorry. But if that's true, and we would have 2 most recent presidents under investigation, is that better? Would we have a more cohesive nation? Would that be healing?
Well, not at all. No.
Healing. I don't. But the idea is that we're going to heal from these guys and get somebody that's different. Or that we can coalesce. Who are you going to get? Gavin Newsom in his place?
That's what I think. What I feel is if people would look at this okay, here is a moment where we've got the common enemy. They're all doing the same thing. And we're all standing on one side or the other where it's why don't we all unite against this common enemy that is doing the same thing? They're all lying to us. They're all doing the same things. It's not one party or the other. And it is a moment of unity, I feel, but I don't think people grasp that because they're so busy trying to choose their side.
Right, because it's Democrat or Republican. And if you step back and you say, wait a second, both of these parties are corrupt, and you understand why 100 million Americans don't vote for either party because they know they're corrupt. They're smart enough to realize these guys are all clowns, save a few of them. You got a few little gems, diamonds in the rough, but mostly they're all clowns. And so then it's another layer. It's like 3D chess, right? Because then what's the layer below that? Well, it's the deep state. It's the permanent Washington, D.C. that is the real enemy here, right? It's the permanent entrenched government that is there, that's unelected and stays there for 30 years. That's who's running the show. That's who's really running everything. And we know that. It's the unelected globalists that are running everything. So let's talk about these Biden documents because holy smokes. This is developing right now as we speak because we now have the president speaking just moments ago. We'll get to that, but maybe we should just set up where we are with these latest round of top secret documents.
Okay, so earlier in the week, we had reports coming out that the FBI was looking into classified documents that President Biden should not have had, and they were found in one of his offices. Attorney General Merrick Garland has now assigned the U.S. Attorney in Chicago to look into those documents and how they got there. We're going to get to that guy in a second. Here is what the president said when he was in Mexico about the first discovery.
First, people know I take classified documents and classified information seriously. When my lawyers were clearing out my office at the University of Pennsylvania, they set up an office for me, secure office in the Capitol. The 4 years after being vice president, I was a professor at Penn.
Hold on. I was a professor at Penn? Okay, let's just put a pin in that. I didn't realize that, but go ahead, Mr. President. You were a professor at Penn?
They found some documents in a box, a locked cabinet, or at least a closet. And as soon as they did, they realized there were several classified documents in that box. And they did what they should have done. They immediately called the archives, turned them over to the archives, and I was briefed about this discovery and surprised to learn that there were any government records that were taken there to that office. But I don't know what's in the documents. My lawyers have not suggested I ask what documents they were. I've turned over the boxes. They've turned over the boxes to the archives, and we're cooperating fully with the review, and which I hope will be finished soon.
They told me not to ask any questions.
Yeah, don't ask
and
what's in
I have
them.
a question,
Plausible
though.
deniability. Mr. President, don't ask. You stole them. They're in your office. I mean, I don't know if you stole them, but they're in your office. Why are they there? Why are they, by the way, rummaging through them anyway? Like, why are the lawyers suddenly there rummaging?
And this office was opened in 2018, which has a 2-year gap between his vice presidency and this office being opened. So why were they put there in the first place? Why there?
Yeah.
We have more questions about that.
And David has a question.
Yeah, my question is, if his office, that's not even his home, is that secure, then how is President Trump's home not more secure than an office would be? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like saying that it's okay to have them in a secure location. It was secured. Well, it was in a lockbox. Well, maybe it was in a closet, you know, which is the same scenario as Trump. Like, why is it any worse or any better that his was in an office and not the president?
Right,
Trump?
and
'Cause
here's
we know how
something
secure those places
I
are.
keep coming around to is like, why can't the U.S. have a filing system for what's classified? If it's classified, let's put an A and then a B and then like put where A and B are. In why?
Well, and like,
that's not hard.
We talked about this on the show at one point. Like, they have to check out those documents. It's not like they're just handed that document. They sign for those documents. They get the document and then they turn it back in. It's not like okay, here, you signed for this document. Okay, I'm going to go make some copies of this really quick, put it in a folder and send it to my office. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a great question. But don't ask questions, David. You're not allowed to ask questions. You're not allowed to ask questions. And by the way, his lawyers told him not to ask questions about these documents.
Well, I'm asking questions here, guys.
Fire away, lady in red.
Okay, so now another round of documents have reportedly been found in the possession of President Biden. Now, he is saying, I don't know what's in there, but CNN says that they do. They say that these are U.S. intelligence memos and briefing materials that covered topics including Ukraine, Iran, and the United Kingdom.
Wait, including Ukraine, Iran, and the UK.
Yes.
I wonder if in these documents are the plans for the blowing up of the Nord Stream pipeline.
Wonder about that too.
By the UK
now, you
government.
don't
You know
have to
what
be a
I
genius
heard?
to know that those are matters of national security. What did you hear?
I saw somewhere someone said that it could contain information about the money from Ukraine, like the whole, money that he
FTX.
was sending.
Yeah, because the timeline,
Yeah.
the timeline puts it before the war in Ukraine.
Yes.
The timeline puts it before that.
Absolutely.
So-
We don't know exactly when, because if it was when he was in office, then it's up to 2016. I don't know.
How did CNN figure this out? CNN. So this is why
They're saying a separate source familiar with the matter. I don't know, because everybody's so tight-lipped about it. I'm not sure how much stock I put into that. But I don't know that CNN clearly does not want this to be bad. We're going to show you that in a second. Now, here's what the president's counsel released just a few hours ago. This is from Richard Sauber, and he's saying that we are completely, cooperating. He lays out what they've been doing in the second paragraph. That's where I'm going to start. Following the discovery of government documents at the Penn Biden Center in November of 2022, and coordinating closely with the Department of Justice, the president's lawyers have searched the president's Wilmington and Rehoboth Beach residence in Delaware, the other location where files from his vice presidential office might have been shipped in the course of the 2017 transition. The lawyers completed that review just last night. That means Wednesday. During the review, the lawyers did discover among personal and political papers a small number of additional Obama-Biden administration records with classified markings. All but one of these documents were found in storage space in the president's Wilmington garage. Just chilling out in the garage, you guys.
Oh, okay.
One document consisted of one page that was discovered among stored materials in adjacent rooms. No documents at the Rehoboth Beach residence. As was done in the case of the Penn Biden Center, the Justice Department was immediately notified, and the lawyers arranged for the Department of Justice to take possession of those documents. And the White House, he says, will continue to cooperate. Now, I am not clear if this is the second documents that were found in these, because the second round of documents was reported before this statement. So I don't know if this is the second or the third. We're not giving clarification on this. But remember that in August, when we went down the timeline of what the Justice Department did with Trump's lawyers to get classified documents, there was something similar. The lawyers, asked some questions, were asked questions. The lawyers did a search, and then they signed an affidavit that this was all they found. The FBI didn't accept that, and so they raided. So now here we have a similar situation. Biden's lawyers, like Trump's, saying this is all we've got. And so is that it for President Biden when that wasn't it for President Trump? Or do they have a reason to believe that they need to maybe do a raid? This is a reasonable question. Does the FBI just take their word for it? One guy's and not the others.
I want to, you know how you have the little bill that sits on Capitol Hill and tells you like how a bill goes in to become a law? I want to know the path that the top secret document takes to end up in a president's garage.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
wouldn't you want to know
back there with like the baseballs and
right? Yeah,
Right.
the old baseball mitts and the lawnmower.
Well,
they're like brushing it
looking
off
through
and like,
documents
this is classified.
Oh, there's grandma's wedding, certificate. I was looking for that. And then, there's documents about how we, staged a coup in Venezuela. We didn't mean to have that.
Oh, here's a document about the puppet government we installed in Ukraine. Oh, I should probably put that over there with the baseballs and the footballs. But why?
And somebody wrote a cheesecake recipe on the back of it.
Cheesecake. But, you got to think about it, though. I'm sorry, if all of this stuff is happening to Trump, right, and all of this raid is happening, all of these classified documents, there's, a national uproar from the media about Trump's documents, you would think you would perhaps get your own house in order, right? Like, hey, we've got 5 houses, one in Wilmington, one in Rehoboth. We got an office in Philly. Can you go and check, make sure I didn't inadvertently grab any documents, and maybe we should rectify that?
You would think that the Clintons are doing that the Obamas are doing that, that President...
In the same way that Facebook and YouTube and Twitch and TikTok are all right now, like going through and probably like burning and, destroying documents.
Yes.
So, just because they've seen what happened to Twitter.
The Bushes, they should be doing that. All of them most likely are going to say, let's double, triple check. It doesn't inspire very much confidence as an American that these documents are well kept in a good order. They might need to look into a little something called the Dewey Decimal System. Now, let's go back to how the media, though, is spinning this, because CBS News is reporting that the president's lawyers found these documents in November. And right away, the media is telling us he didn't mean it, he doesn't know he was there, and don't even try to compare this with Trump. Now, here's something that I just found interesting on Twitter, because the day the story broke on Tuesday, Andrea Mitchell, who is a senior political correspondent at NBC News, puts this tweet out right away on Tuesday. I interviewed Joe Biden in his office at the Penn Biden Center, where his lawyers say they found a small number of classified documents. As far as we know, very different from Trump, hiding and withholding hundreds of documents despite requests and subpoenas, but GOP is pouncing. Now, would you think from this that she's on this story, that she's interviewing him, that she maybe had seen the facilities? This confused me because Tuesday is when the president was in Mexico. And so when did this happen? I actually did respond to this on Twitter and say, when did this happen? Because he was in Mexico on Tuesday. Are you saying that you interviewed him at a different time? Because you're drawing a conclusion that this is different from Trump. And I had one sleuth Twitter follower who said, no, actually, this is from 2018. They found me this tweet from 2018 when the Penn Biden Center was opening, and she interviewed him 5 years ago. And so that's a very disingenuous tweet for her to say, I interviewed him in this place where documents were found. She's not saying she did it today, but she's leading us to believe that she's on this story and that we absolutely should not draw the conclusion about President Trump.
That's garbage. Yeah, she's using a photo from 5 years ago.
5 years ago. And in fact, you can find, I did go back, I scrolled all the way through and found this original tweet in 2018. Here she is in the dress and him standing in the same place that was in her original tweet when she told us that she had seen this place and that there's nothing to see. She's drawing this conclusion.
Dirty.
Well, and just that camera alone tells me it's more than, several years
that's
ago.
an
Oh,
old
okay.
school
See,
camera.
you're on that one. Now, CNN takes this one step further with this graphic, and this, like the journalism student, Natalie, is screaming, this is not the job of the media. They made this graphic to let us know how these are two distinct cases. One guy's smiling and happy and innocent. The other one looks very suspect and untrustworthy and is scowling, side-by-side comparison. There's just a couple, maybe a dozen or so documents. Some are top secret and some are just classified because it's fun to use a self-inking stamp. And they're cooperating, and it's the lawyers that found the archives and alerted. In fact,
and that's just
Trump's
so
lawyers did alert about certain things when they were asked. They cooperated to an extent, obviously not to the fullest extent, because the raid produced extra documents. And some are also making the distinction that one person in previous office had the power to declassify materials and one person did not. We're going to get to that in a second.
Can we play this breaking news?
Our guy ended 60 lives, and this guy ended 12. This guy used a knife, and this guy used a spoon.
Right.
You still ended lives. It doesn't freaking matter.
Yeah, and this is clear partisan journalism here, just like letting you know the conclusion you should draw.
So before we go on, I do want to play this, Philip, because this is from just a few minutes ago. This was at 10:50. So this was a little earlier today, actually. Sorry, this is a little earlier today. Biden responding directly now to the second or third batch of papers that have been found. So where we are in the story, let's play this. Take a listen.
Okay. Classified material next to your Corvette. What were you thinking?
Let me, I'm going to get a chance to speak on all this, God willing, soon. But as I said earlier this week, people, and by the way, my Corvette's in a locked garage. Okay? So it's not like you're sitting out in the street.
So
but anyway.
Was in a locked garage.
Yes, as well as my Corvette. But as I said earlier this week, people know I take classified documents and classified materials seriously. I also said we're cooperating fully and completely with the Justice Department's review. As part of that process, my lawyers reviewed other places where documents from my time as vice president were stored, and they finished the review last night. They discovered a small number of documents of classified markings in storage areas in file cabinets in my home and my personal library. This was done in the case of the Biden Penn. This was done in the case of the Biden Penn Center. The Department of Justice was immediately, as was done, the Department of Justice was immediately notified, and the lawyers arranged for the Department of Justice to take possession of the document. So we're going to see all this unfold. I'm confident. Thank you very much.
What was that? Did you hear him at the end go, ooh, 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 ooh?
Good to see you. Good to see you. I'm getting out of here. He's like, oh man, what did I just walk into?
Yeah.
I shouldn't have done this press. By the way, he never does press conferences.
No.
So this is the reason why
he must have grabbed Pierre's book because he was like reading that all.
Oh, he read the whole thing off a script, you know? And as Brandon Straka says, you know, when you're reading an explanation of your own actions and wrongdoing that clearly somebody else wrote, you can't even get that out clearly. Like you can't even say that clearly or cleanly.
All right, but let's go back to this narrative that
on...
it's okay because he's cooperating. Can we move on to that? Mm-hmm. Because I'd like to throw this one to Hermeet Dillon. She's a lawyer, and she's running for the chair of the Republican National Committee. She says, doesn't matter if he's cooperating or not. This is still an illegal thing to do. Listen to what she told Tucker last night.
By the way, that's kind of a consensus view in Washington, a city that needs to change. Hermeet Dillon plans to try and change it. She's running for RNC chair. She joins us tonight to assess what we're seeing now. Hermeet, thanks so much for coming on. So he did the right thing. Is that a legal defense?
Not at all, Tucker. What we are seeing here is actually a cover-up of typical Washington proportions. In fact, it looks now like at least one of these troves of documents was identified before the midterm elections, but we're just hearing about it now. So it was concealed from the country to affect the outcome of an election. Secondly, it looks like there have been at least now 3 instances of these documents being moved. The first is out of the White House in 2017 as the Obama and Biden administrations were vacating. Secondly, into location number 1. Thirdly, into location number 2. And if the DOJ were serious about this, Tucker, they should be raiding all of Biden's homes and vacation destinations over the last several years to see, rifle through the sofa cushions, see if there are any classified documents there, because you can really have no confidence with this set of facts that we're at the end of the discovery of these documents. And an important distinction here is that President Trump had the absolute authority under federal law to declassify documents and also to keep documents for a period of time while he was looking through them for his archives before turning them over to the National Archives. Vice President Joe Biden has no such defense to that. And so I'm not buying any of this. And the other complicating factor here, Tucker, is that multiple members of the former vice president's family have close and questionable ties to foreign governments, including China and Ukraine. At least one of these documents pertains to the Ukraine. And there are serious federal penalties for giving access to foreign governments to these classified documents and a longer statute of limitations. This is a major criminal investigation issue, and brushing it under the rug by giving it to a recent United States attorney holdover from the Trump era is no substitute for a special counsel, which is how Democrats have treated the Mar-a-Lago documents. So there's a lot to see here, and we aren't at the end of it yet, Tucker.
He did the right. If you discover that I robbed a liquor store 6 years ago and I returned the money to the cash register, I'm still guilty of a crime.
No harm, no foul in Washington, apparently.
He did the right thing, yeah.
All right.
Well, and I think that the agents are going to be very unhappy when they get there and find out that the garage is locked.
Right.
We're here to why were they all going to his different locations recently, like going through his garage, okay, so you have lawyers like rifling through stuff all of a sudden.
But also, why last night when the documents, the first round, were found in November, and then the lawyer's statement says, well, we went through because this happened in November. I guess we got back to work. We decided to take the holidays anyway. Right? Why would they do this search last night all of a sudden? Is it because the news broke? Because they should have been working on this starting in November if any classified documents were found. Now, let's get a little bit to the investigation. We're going to jump ahead to who is doing this investigation and what this means. Now, the FBI says that this is just a preliminary investigation and that Merrick Garland has assigned this guy, I want to show you his picture, to investigate. Now, Democrats are upset. They are preemptively saying that they're unhappy with this because this guy is U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, John Lausch. He looks a little like Steve Carell, don't you think, in that picture?
Steve Carell.
Incidentally, President Biden tried to fire him when he took office, but the 2 senators from Illinois asked him not to. Here's the statement from Senators Durbin and Duckworth saying, please, we need to keep our U.S. attorney here in Illinois. He's up to a lot of stuff. He's in the middle of important things, and we'd like to keep him. And so he was removed from the chopping block, and he stayed. Lausch is one of only 2 Trump-appointed U.S. attorneys still in office. So it's interesting that Merrick Garland would choose him to do this. Guess who is the other only remaining Trump-appointed U.S. attorney in office? I'm going to tell you. David Weiss. It's U.S. Attorney David Weiss who is leading an investigation into the president's son, Hunter Biden. So 2 Biden inquiries now. 2 Trump-appointed U.S. attorneys leading them. Is this Merrick Garland being clever? It's interesting, right?
Yeah.
And so, again, we can go over, I had intended to, but we're running a bit long to go over like the Justice Department's motions against Trump and their motions for the raid and all of that, because we have a lot to look at where we compare, is this the same or is it not? We can save that for another time, but we'll leave you with White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre saying when she's pushed on this timeline by CBS reporter Ed O'Keefe, why was this kept from us if the documents were found November 2nd? Why was this another Hunter Biden treatment of a story that was suppressed ahead of an election? And he gets pretty testy with her. She absolutely doesn't like it. Watch.
On these documents, how could anyone be that irresponsible? Isn't that what this president says about mishandling classified documents?
The president spoke to this personally. He spoke to this personally. He believes that classified documents and information should be taken seriously. He takes them seriously, and he was surprised to learn by any records had been. I disagree.
Okay, that was not that was the one with Peter Ducey. I didn't mean to say it that way. Came out wrong. Do we have another one? Yes, that one. Let's do this one with Ed O'Keefe. I'm sorry, they were in the wrong order.
On the documents case, again, you've laid out that the president's lawyers and the special counsel are dealing with the legal side of this. You've now laid out that you have not had a conversation with the president about this. But this was reported Monday. It happened in November. Are you aware of any conversation in the West Wing among others, people other than the president, about disclosing this once it was discovered?
What I can say is I was asked by your colleague if we talked about the documents themselves. The president said he does not know what was in them, right? But also just wanted to clear that up. I understand you guys are going to have a lot of questions on this. I get that. I know you guys are going to have a lot of questions on process and specifics. And what I can tell you is that I'm not going to go beyond what the president laid out. I'm not going to go beyond what my White House counsel colleagues have stated. I would refer you to them for any other specifics or additional information. I want to be prudent here. I want to make sure that we do this in the appropriate way.
We're going to ask them because that's our job.
I understand, and my job is to answer your questions. So here we go. Let's go.
We asked this is because on day 2 of this administration, when he swore all of you in, the president said, quote, "I'm going to make mistakes. When I make them, I'll acknowledge them, and I'll tell you, and I'll need your help to help me correct them." So you're the one here talking to us about this. That's why we're asking you. So let's just remember that. When he was asked yesterday,
Ed, we don't need to have this. We work very well together. We don't need to have this kind of confrontation. Ask your question, and I will answer them the best that I can.
Part of the reason we're laying that out is because you're laying out your part of the job. We're laying out our part of the job.
I know, but I'm just saying that we don't need to have contention. You don't need to be contentious with me here, Ed.
The president was asked yesterday, but did not answer this part of the question. Why didn't he or someone in the White House inform the American people when these documents were discovered on November 2nd? Did it have anything to do, because people are asking this part of it, did it have anything to do with the fact that the election was just a few days away?
Again, Ed, this is under review by the Department of Justice. It is literally under review right now. As I am talking to you, it is under review. So I'm not going to get beyond the process. I'm not going to get beyond what the president said. Look, the White House counsel, my colleagues in the White House counsel, laid out a very detailed information about what this particular issue on Monday. You all have that. I'm just not going to get beyond that. The Department of Justice is independent, as you know. They're doing a review, and I want to be prudent here. And it would be more appropriate. It would be more appropriate for my colleagues in the White House counsel's office to address this.
Then we welcome them to the briefing room, and we hope they can come soon to discuss this. But there's another thing. There was nothing stopping the President of the United States from disclosing the discovery of these classified documents in his former office before it was under Justice Department review.
What I can tell you right now is what the president is share with you what the president said to all of you.
So the question is November 2nd. Why didn't we learn about this before the election?
Yeah.
That's the question.
No, these are super appropriate questions. And you can tell that she is just thrown by being asked them to someone. She's like, oh, we usually work so well together. You usually don't hurt my feelings.
Yeah, you're
you
CBS.
Usually don't hurt me.
You're CBS. You're just a mouthpiece of the intelligence state. So you see all the 60 Minutes pieces over the past 6 months. They're all shill pieces for our Biden White House. We don't have to fight like this. You don't have to be contentious with me.
Yeah, but I don't understand, because I thought she was perfectly clear. Like, I thought that she was perfectly clear with what she said. Like she said, I got it. So if you guys didn't get it, I guess
Oh.
I want to be perfectly clear. I think we've been perfectly clear. The president was perfectly clear. Yeah, and as people are pointing out here in the chat, it's not under review. Like it wasn't. What do you mean it's under review? So there was a period where it wasn't under review. You could have told us about this. You could have let us know this.
Right. Yeah. Good point.
Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.